So, hardcore Pokemon fans, they're not particularly 100% happy about the way things are developing in terms of the upcoming new entry in the series, Sword and Shield, in large part because of this Nintendo Treehouse event right here. You can see the amount of dislikes it has. And the reason for this is because this is when they announced that Pokemon Sword and Shield would not have a national dex, or that the national dex would not be a complete one. Sword and Shield selection of Pokemon will only be confined to the ones that they select for this region. In previous titles, you could import Pokemon from previous games, any ones you wanted, and use them. In this Pokemon game, there will be some Pokemon that are going to be cut, essentially, from this particular title. And that has caused quite a bit of controversy. The reason that Nintendo relayed was that, with the Switch being a more powerful console and with them having to up the graphics, it's just a lot of work to bring every single Pokemon to this game. But a lot of people counteracted that argument by saying that, well, the Pokemon animations and stuff, they don't look that they've been bolstered all that much. The models seem like they're just kind of upscaled versions of a lot of the Pokemon seen in the 3DS games. And just in general, the graphical update doesn't feel substantial enough to justify what they're doing with this game, cutting all these Pokemon and saying that, well, it's just too much work. And then another aspect that Nintendo relayed was that game design-wise, they wanted to kind of keep the list a little shorter in terms of how many Pokemon and which Pokemon you can use to just better the design of the game, essentially. But not everyone feels as though that's a good excuse, because you could always, if you are going to a tournament, you could always ban specific Pokemon instead of just cutting them from the game outright. So there's two sides of the fence. The developers feel as though this is for the better for this particular title, in terms of being able to release this game on time and in terms of balancing the game better. A lot of the casual fans, they don't care that much. I mean, they have some favorite Pokemons they would like to see, but it's still probably going to be an enjoyable game. And then the hardcore fans who have always enjoyed the aspect of being able to carry on your journey, being able to bring with you what you previously caught, your previous efforts, carrying over each new entry, that was a big part of the series for them, and that's now been compromised. So, there's multiple perspectives. Now, what we didn't know before was just how bad the Pokemon cuts would be. Was it going to be 5% of the Pokemon, 10% of the Pokemon? When Nintendo said that not every Pokemon would be in this game, people figured it'd be like a minority of them. But turns out the cuts are actually worse than many expected. So this right here is an article published by news outlet Polygon, which relayed this information. The headline of this article reads, Pokemon Sword and Shield's full Pokedex seems to have leaked. Here's who made the cut. And then right down here, they linked to a number of Reset Era threads where they leaked the full Pokemon roster for this title. And this screenshot, I believe, shows all the new Pokemon from this new region. But then scrolling down further, this is the full list of Pokemon, as well as who made the cut and who didn't. The green are the Pokemon that made it. The whites are the ones that didn't. And it is a sizable chunk of Pokemon who are being cut from this title. And not just some of the less popular ones. I mean, we're seeing starter Pokemon from first gen. So, the Bulbasaur evolutions and the Squirtle evolutions, they're not in this game at all. And there's just a lot of popular choices, a lot of just really well-loved Pokemon that people really enjoy who have been axed. And here's an article that details exactly how many were cut. This reads, there are around 478 cut Pokemon if you count all of the evolved forms. I believe that's essentially over half. There are over 800 Pokemon as things currently stand in total from every region. 478 of them are no longer accessible in this new game. Over 50%. I did not anticipate the cuts would be this extensive. As a casual fan, I previously said I don't really, for me, my level of investment in Pokemon it's not a huge deal if a few Pokemon get cut, but I just didn't expect that over half of them would not appear in this game. And yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. And I understand that this is going to upset a lot of hardcore fans who have been with this series for so long. This is just a lot worse than many people expected. I guess for me, for my part, I don't know. Again, I'm casual enough of a fan that as long as there's still a decent variety of Pokemon, there's still 400 of them-ish, maybe, almost 400. To look forward to in this game. That's still a sizable amount, so I don't get the sense that this is going to ruin the game per se, but for the hardcore people who have stuck with the series since the beginning and have transferred their Pokemon and who love, bringing the favorite Pokemons like the Bulbasaur and Squirtle evolutions, that Pokemon, and all of these that have been cut. For a lot of the people who have an invested emotional affinity to some of these Pokemon, yeah, there's going to be complaints. People are not going to be happy about this. So this is kind of where we're at. And there's also the fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield removes features like the Mega Evolutions and the Z moves, and in their place, they've only added giant Pokemon, essentially, which people don't feel is just as creative as some of the previous kind of a quirkier aspects and features that they've introduced in past games. Just bigger versions of Pokemon feels just It just doesn't feel like it makes up for what is missing in these new entries. Now, how much of a tangible effect do I think this is going to have in overall sales? I don't think, not much. I think the people who are really upset about this are kind of a niche hardcore crowd. A lot of people who are going to buy this are, kids and a lot of the more casual players who aren't so hardcore about Pokemon that they would boycott the game over these missing Pokemon, especially the newer generation of players. So I think it's still going to sell a dozen million copies or whatever. I mean, these games always sell, and especially with this game being graphically enhanced and being on a proper home console like Switch, or I guess it's a hybrid, but still, it's actually moving away from a fully portable dedicated console into something more powerful. Just that alone is appealing. And so, and Switch is selling so well, and there's such a large player base that I foresee many of them still buying this game, regardless of the qualms that they might have with this. But this is, this is kind of devastating. I can see some people really being quite upset. Even as a casual fan, I feel a little uneasy seeing this. It's so many who have been cut. I don't know if Nintendo's reasonings are adequate enough to convince the hardcore crowd. Because on some level, I do agree that the graphics in Sword and Shield, they're not fantastic. It looks like an in-between between Switch and 3DS. It doesn't look like it goes full-on Switch. I feel like the game could look better. And animations-wise, there is a lot of talk about whether animations are reused or not. And I cannot speak to that. I'm not an expert in that field. But they certainly haven't improved to an extent where you feel like this kind of cut might be fully 100% justified. But I don't know what went on behind the scenes during development. I don't know what difficulties the folks over at Game Freak had to overcome in order to bring even this roster of Pokemon to the new game. Is this actually a cause of development struggles in that transition from 3DS to Switch? I don't want to use the word lazy because I don't believe in developers not working hard. That developers are always working hard. This comes down to decisions from higher-ups, and whether this decision right here was done with good intentions and with intentions that would make sense if you knew what went on behind the scenes, or if this was more just, let's get the game out there. Hard to say. But I honestly, if it had to do with development struggles, I personally wouldn't mind them delaying this game to bring more Pokemon on board. And if that's not possible, at the very least, I hope through free DLCs, they should not be charging for any Pokemon, but through free updates and DLCs, they'll be able to get the rest of them on board, or at least a significant amount of the ones that have been cut, especially the more beloved ones. Like a lot of these starters. I mean, here are some more starters. This is from, I believe this is Gen 2 starters. They're cut completely. Gen 3 starters, completely cut. Some of the legendaries like Lugia and Ho-Oh, very popular, completely cut. And the list just goes on and on. It's just way worse than people expected. So, yeah, I don't know what to think about this. As a casual fan, I know hardcore fans have already made up their minds. Now, do keep in mind this is a leak, not confirmation. So, take this with a grain of salt, take the appropriate measures in terms of not going full in on deeming this as confirmation, but this does seem to be a leak from a reputable leaker. And if this is true, I'm glad the leaker put this out there, because Nintendo hasn't been entirely upfront about exactly how many Pokemon have been cut. They've been playing coy with that information. So with this, we might have some idea now and can set expectations before buying the game. But yeah, those are my general thoughts about this whole situation. I'd love to hear what your take is on this list of cut Pokemon in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.